The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good afternoon, Keith Tebow from FRC Media. As we get closer to the preliminary election, which is going to be held on September 19th, we're trying to speak to as many candidates as possible so that you can make an informed decision when you go to the ballot box. Coming up on the preliminary election will be the race for mayor and city council. We have one of the city council candidates joining us right now. He is Bob Pearson. Bob, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, some people may remember you. You were a school committee man almost 30 years ago.
Yes, 28 to be exact.
Yeah, so I guess the first question is, why run again, and why run for city council since you were a school committee member?
Well, I think our school committee is doing a relatively good job. I like some of the people on the school committee, and I wish them nothing but the best. There's going to be an empty slot there, and I already know who I'm voting for, but that's not for now. The reason I'm running for city council, because some of the things I see going on in our city, some I like. I like the concerts in the park. I think that's a great program. I like the fact that you have CFC right here in Bristol Community College. That's a great program, which I was on their board of directors for a few years. But the big thing for me is our water rates, our sewer rates, and a rainwater runoff fee. We pay for water that comes off our roof. I mean, what next? We're going to pay for oxygen? I hope not, but you never know what's coming down the road. But I talk to people, I'm going door to door, and I leave my flyer wherever I go. They're in variety stores or in pharmacies. Anybody will take it. They're in South End Pizza, wherever. And people pick them up, and the owners, I ask them, I says, what happened to my flyers? People take them. I said, well, that's good. They're paying attention. Of course, I have to worry about the night crews coming in and throw them in the barrel, but we replenish that stock. But that's the big reason for me to run for city council. It's simply that our department heads, for the most part, we have a lot of good department heads. We've got one or two that I just don't think they deserve the kind of money they're making. And, you know, Council Pelletier once said, if you want good people to run a department, you've got to pay them good money. Well, that's true for a large percentage of the time, but not always. We've got some people who sit around and, quite frankly, they don't do a hell of a lot, and that's got to change. Yeah. And I'm not chastising the mayor or anybody who wants to be mayor, because I think the mayor is doing as good a job as anybody can possibly do under his circumstances. However, you need people such as myself, who's retired, who's willing to walk into City Hall and knock on a department door, tell them who I am, and I think most of the departments in City Hall know who I am. Having been the president of the Watuppa Water Board for 6 years, the girls and the men in that department, they know me very well. They know I don't take a lot of bull from people. I ask straightforward questions. Yeah. And if they don't give me the answer I'm looking for, I'm saying, wait a minute, is this a scripted interview I'm doing with you? And one by one, they say, well, you know, we've been told to watch out for you. Well, that's okay, you can watch out for me. Right. However, I'm coming in asking straight questions, I want straight answers. Yeah. And that's what I want our city councilors, whether I'm elected or not, I expect them all to do that kind of a job.
You mentioned the water and stormwater fee and sewer fees that go up every year. The city, unfortunately, has a lot of water projects that has been mandated to pay for from the federal government, CSO projects and the like. That has to be paid for. I guess if you want to reduce fees, how does the city pay for those?
Well, the CSO project, if you remember way back when, was supposed to be a 5-year project. We've gone to 2 or 3 congressmen, and none of them have come up to the plate and say, hey, here's what we really have to do. Perhaps Congressman Auchincloss is doing the best he can. I called his office. Quite frankly, I didn't get the answer I was looking for. If you look at your electric bill, as just one example, there's a little feed on the left-hand corner for solar. And there's another fee on the other side for electric boxes in your garage for a car. I don't have an electric car. I don't have solar on my house, but I'm getting charged for them. It's not a lot, but that's how the federal government is mandating things to us. How about mandating a lump sum of cash to us and say, here's to help pay for your CSO project? And you know, I just feel that the federal government has let us down to a large degree. We're paying enough in taxes. And in Fall River, we pay exorbitant amounts for taxes. We currently have, I think, about 12 electric cars on the city side. And that's fine. I like that. But if we wait like California has, you look at California, they have blackouts on a routine basis. What's going to happen to our electric cars? Are they just going to stop in the middle of the street? I certainly hope not.
So, you know, a lot of things that I'm asking a lot of the candidates about is cost of living in Fall River, especially in the past few years. Inflation has taken hold. Rents are high. It's not just a Fall River problem, it's a nationwide problem.
It is.
How can, as a city councilor, how can you work with either the administration or even the community at large to try to see how, you know, residents can get a break in terms of rent and cost of living?
I think anytime you can lower a water bill, a sewer bill, or any bill that comes in from the city, that puts money back in the taxpayer's pocket. It doesn't help pay for the new pipe that has to be laid into the ground. However, when we purchase pipe, we should purchase it when it's at its cheapest. Not every year we buy 15, 20 pipes and stockpile them at the top of Bedford Street. That's not the way good business people operate. No, we shouldn't be doing it that way. If we have to buy something, search around for the lowest price. We currently, or at least last year, we were buying chemicals for the treatment of our water from China and Japan. I thought my hat would fly off my head because I was touring the plant at the top of Bedford Street, which I would do often. And Mr. Furman told me, well, we're going to cancel one of those contracts and save the city $100,000. Well, I'm afraid the taxpayer hasn't seen that change. You know, maybe we did away with that chemical, but surely we must have bought chemicals to replace it with. And Port and Remington is a good supplier of a lot of the chemicals we use. Thankfully, they're in this area, keeping the cost to a reasonable level.
Yeah. Public safety is always a concern in Fall River. For whatever reason, the number of police officers, Chief Garvin is still looking to fill many slots to bring the complement to a full state. You know, years ago, even talking to the chief recently, he said years ago we had the bodies but not the money, meaning you had the recruits but no way to bring them on. Now it's the opposite. The city has money for recruits, but they're not filling those needs. What can a city do?
Well, I can tell you this, Keith. I was a former correctional officer for 5 years. I'm only 5'4". I realized real quick that the inmates at the Bristol County House were 6'2", 6'3". They lifted weights every day. I didn't have that opportunity. And therefore, you've got a lot of young people wanting to be police officers. But when they see the reality of walking down Tecumseh Street or walking down King Street, and King Street's a nice neighborhood. Tecumseh, it needs improvement. But it's not an easy job. But one of the things we need to do in our city is get our bicycle patrol back out on the street. We spent a lot of money on a new bike a couple of years ago. I've been told it's unrepairable already. I mean, the streets, the potholes, maybe it did a toll on it. But for some reason, we don't have our bicycle patrol, especially in the Flint and in the South End and down north. We need the bicycle patrol because at first glance, you don't see it when it's coming at you. But all of a sudden, they're on you. And if you're doing something stupid, they're going to call you to task, as they should.
Right. You mentioned earlier about being a little more cognizant of city finances, and that's a big role of the city council. City council approves the budget every year. How difficult will it be to balance the need to pay employees, like you said, what they're worth, give them a good pay, while also trying to help the taxpayer? There's got to be some sort of balance there.
It really has to be a happy medium, and it's not always easy. But I still say that when department heads submit their budgets, many times it's a copy of last year's budget, and they increase it by 10%. That's not good enough. We've got people who take last year's budget, like I said, and they're lining out lumber, plywood. Call the lumberyard. How much are you charging for a 4x8 sheet of exterior ply? And they just simply add that. That's I mean, department heads have got to sit down with the people who are doing the budgets, because the department heads don't normally do it. It's usually a person in that office, and it's got to go to him or her, the department head. Then it goes before the board, such as the water board, the health board, whatever. And then it goes before the council. About 2 months ago, there was only 8 councilors, because Council Pelletier was out sick. 7 of those 8 councilors voted for increases in water, sewer, and rainwater fees. Nobody looked at that budget except for one lady, and I credit her for that. It's just not enough. The finance is not a subcommittee, it's a committee of the whole. Well, maybe we need to have a subcommittee, look over a budget subcommittee, then present it to finance. Yeah. There's got to be a way of tightening the reins a little.
Well, Bob, I appreciate your time. Bob Pearson, candidate for City Council, and I'm sure we'll talk again between now and November.
I certainly hope so.
And I appreciate your time and all the best.
Keith, thank you and your staff. I have to comment on your facilities.
Thank you.
You know, BCC was once known as Beer Can College. My daughter attended here, and now she's a vice president of a credit union. So Beer Can College has come a long way, but it's also due to operations such as this.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. I appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on FRC Media. Please make a point to vote on Tuesday, September 19th.